Welcome to Strange Coordinates, the show where we use brands as roadmaps to arrive at surprising places. I'm Topher Burns.
And I'm Robert Baylog. Topher and I founded an ad agency called Territorial. After working with some of the biggest brands in the world, we help brands find their place in the world. And we do that by exploring how culture, history, desire all bounce off one another to reveal what's cool about being human.
Every episode, one of us gives the other a brand to explore. The other has to trek into the wilderness and come back with a story that they find the most compelling. It is using brands as compass points to discover the world around us.
So, Topher, speaking about the world around us, you recently just came back from far afield, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah.
Down under.
Down. Oh, God. Is the accent
That's
gonna?
what they say.
Is the accent gonna make an appearance?
Well, we'll see. Actually, there is a little bit of an opportunity to flex on that.
Oh.
So,
one of my favorite things about traveling to those two places is like encountering kind of new brands. Oftentimes it's like wild versions of Lay's potato chips. You know, like you go to Barcelona, it's like the jamon potato chip. Like
I'm all about the chip tourism,
Yeah.
100%.
Anything interesting in Australia?
Chicken salt.
What?
Chicken salt.
And
That's a thing. Chicken
tell me more
salt
about
is, I don't know, it was presented to me like the first time somebody was like, you want chicken salt on that? And I was like, yeah. Like, I don't know. Yeah. Hit me.
Did it taste chickeny?
It's kind of like, there's an MSG quality to it.
Yeah.
And there's kind of like a bouillon quality to it.
I was going to say,
I think
it feels
it's
like a...
kind of like, you know, if you just like boiled a chicken
Right.
in a vat where you were distilling water into salt, it kind of had that flavor.
I love the idea
They
of somebody
toss
with
it
like
on
a
everything.
microplaner and a bouillon cube, just like
Just grating that.
you just grate
Maybe.
it over your
There,
chips.
you know, it's probably some like Melbourne barista.
Yeah.
But no, it was so chicken flavored chips, crisps.
What do you think about, like, some people are very anti-meat flavored chips. Where do you on
I used to be completely pro
Yeah.
until I had another chip experience in Australia. It was like a meat pie flavored Dorito type thing.
That's a lot.
It
Was
was
it corn based?
Yeah, so it was like a corn-based thing. And I would say that it sort of seemed like what happened was, and it was like a name brand meat pie company that I didn't recognize, but other people were like, oh, that's the, and I think it was like 4 and 20 Blackbirds or something like
Right.
that, you know? And I was like, well, I'll buy it. Let's check it out.
Sure.
And it kind of seemed like the people at 4 and 20 Blackbirds were like, listen, we have used almost every piece of this cow, but we've got these hoofs. What should we do with them? I don't want to just throw them away. So they're like, you know, we could license our name and we could team up with this off-market Dorito brand.
Yeah.
And let's just render these hoofs and then into dust and
Sure.
then sprinkle that dust onto the chips. I've never had a blander Dorito. It was vile.
Oh.
It was like eating wet cardboard flavored with Elmer's glue.
And
it was real bad. There was a slightly, it wasn't meaty. It was
Right.
only unctuous. You know what I mean? So
right.
it was just like eating
collagen, just
tendons.
collagen flavor. Yeah.
Yeah. It was bad.
That's gnarly. That's super
I
gnarly.
love a prawn chip. Give me a
love a
prawn
prawn
chip, no problem.
In
The
my
chicken
neighborhood-
chips were delicious, but I'm
Yeah.
not here for this like beef situation.
And then, I mean, you've probably seen these in Chinatown. You can get the cumin lamb chips, which are just
What?
like
I haven't seen those, and I would eat
bananas.
the hell out of those.
They're so good.
Ugh,
It's Lay's cumin lamb flavor, and I'm like, this is phenomenal.
man.
Yeah.
The next time you see them, will you like get a couple?
Yeah, I'll stash
hide them
aside
away as
for
a
you.
treat for me. Yeah. Does
Yeah.
sound incredible.
100%.
Ooh.
Yeah. So we've already gone on a bit of a culinary journey, but I'm, thinking of your journey. A lot of people when they travel, this is kind of a new thing. Like people have like skin routines for their traveling. Yeah, do you do anything? Do you like? I remember on my most recent flight from LA, there was a person who wore a mask the entire time, and I thought that's both terrifying but also super smart.
Mask, I mean, I fully support that. In fact, sometimes if I'm like bored, I'll shop around in a airport for a mask. I I don't know how it sure, it seems like it's kind of like effective, but like
Right.
travel just messes you up so much anyways, and only part of the impact in my experience
It's
to
like
your
skin
skin
dehydration.
is the dehydration,
Yeah.
like the exhaustion, the like going outside of your normal routine. But it is something to do on the flight.
Yeah.
And it's a way to pretend that you're like not around a bunch of like other mouth breathers. So I'm very pro, but I wouldn't say that it's like a must do.
Yeah.
But as you can probably intuit from this, I was delighted that you requisitioned an Oil of Olay episode because I have spent a fair amount of time in the beauty world.
You have.
In marketing and stuff like that. So it was kind of fun to dig into this stuff.
Yeah, and you preempted. I was getting us there. I was reminding the listener that we did assign Oil of Olay last time.
Yes.
That, I'm very excited to hear about it. You've already kind of said that you were raring to go, so I'm eager to hear where you took us.
Well, and you were kind because I had complained softly about getting too many butch brands. And
soft.
so it's soft for me. And so you're like, all right, you fancy little boy, how about we hook you up with Oil of Olay? And so it was a wonderful journey.
Ooh.
I'm excited to dive into it.
I cannot wait.
Let's this is gonna be also a collaborative journey.
Oh.
So you're gonna join me in some interesting ways.
This seems unfair. I was really relying on just not having to do much today, but that's cool. Fine.
Yeah, it's not gonna be that.
Okay.
But I'll just kind of like lay the groundwork.
All right.
We're gonna just kind of like set a little and do a little bit of traveling as you've already set up actually.
Okay.
So we're gonna first start in post World War II South Africa.
I don't know if that's a
1949.
place I want to be necessarily.
Yeah. But nonetheless, there is an ex-Unilever chemist. He lives in Durban, South Africa. And in 1949, his wife complains to him that her facial moisturizer is too thick, too goopy, and too shiny. At that point, facial moisturizers were a lot of times petroleum-based or the animal products. And they were kind of more like what we would imagine as Vaseline today. And that's not cute. Like,
that's
you can
not
pop
good.
that on in bed next to somebody who's already tired of looking at you. But in any other scenario, not a good look.
No.
So he starts whipping stuff up. They do a lot of kind of like testing. And that's where the first sort of product of Oil of Olay comes from, is the focus being on something that is like more liquidy and then more pleasing to look at. So as you might recall, the Oil of Olay sort of
Logo.
initial product has that like faint pink tinge.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it
yeah.
smells like baby powder. So it's built to be much more appealing. It's put into a glass bottle, and it just like overall it's going to rub into your skin. It's going to make you feel moisturized, but it's not going to kind of like prevent you from putting on makeup or make you look like you have like a weird greasy sheen.
Yeah.
So this chemist creates this thing, and he's like, I gotta get this out there. I feel really positively about this product.
Yeah.
And so he teams up with a guy who is an advertising copywriter.
Hello.
And they're like, this thing's gonna sell like hotcakes.
Yeah.
Let's make a company together. And they come up with a really unusually savvy early marketing strategy. They don't even on the bottle say what it is. Later, they will say beauty fluid, and they describe it that way. Fluid to differentiate it from the greasy creams and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But they don't really like go any further. They don't do a lot of claims. They
Right.
just say like, this is your beauty secret.
And
they
this is
call
all
it.
in South Africa.
Yes.
Okay.
And they also don't do any outreach to chemists and shops. They only place advertising out that says like, this is, your one beauty secret. And they just show the beautiful looking bottle.
Yeah.
And then they take out advertisements in, I guess Reader's Digest had a South Africa edition. And they make what becomes later, we would recognize as like an advertorial. They make up an advice columnist. And then they post an ad that looks like the rest of Reader's Digest, but it says like, "Dear Miss Pennyfeather" or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Like I don't like my skin. It feels lackluster, and I don't know what to put on. And so she says like, "You have to get this one thing. It's my beauty secret." Blah blah blah.
Had
blah,
anybody
blah.
done this before? Or was this like brand new?
This I don't know like how like completely, but it was really revolutionary, especially in the category of beauty at the time. So. Another component of kind of what was so enticing of this is the name. I'd imagine that like the name for you kind of like stuck in your brain.
Yes.
It has a little bit of mystique. It's
Correct.
kind of like, enticing.
It comes from afar. It's a thing that was
Totally.
Along the Silk Road delivered to us,
Yes. And I think I don't think, I know it was intentionally designed for that reason. I actually don't know how, it wasn't clear, I couldn't find anywhere how exactly they got to the name, because the only thing I could find is that the chemist came up with the name based on heroing one of the core ingredients, which is lanolin. And so somehow from lanolin he got to Olay.
Yeah.
I don't
Lanolin's derived from sheep.
Good for you.
From
That was going to
wool,
be a
right?
question
Yeah.
of mine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw it described online when I was doing my research as wool grease.
I mean, another option for the name.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad they didn't go
Put
in
some
that
wool
direction.
grease on your face.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, nowadays I think that would sell real well.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, this lanolin traps moisture in
Yeah.
like petroleum jelly, so it kind of serves a similar sort of like barrier function, but in a new form factor. It's not as goopy and stuff like that. It doesn't seem that lanolin is in Olay products any further. I didn't see it being listed in any of the stuff that they have now, but back then it was kind of, I think, a thing.
Yeah.
And so with their sort of like Oil of Olay, like their whole...
Can I pause here?
Yes.
How did we discover that you can get something out of fleece that makes your skin nice? That seems a real process.
Well, I looked into it.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Okay. Amazing.
So I don't know how it was discovered.
Yeah.
But I do know how it is done.
Yeah.
It's cruelty free, which is important in the beauty world even
For sure.
today.
Yeah.
But back in the day, I think it probably just made it cheaper. You
Yeah.
didn't have to kill a whole animal to get the thing. You just had to. So you just shear the sheep.
Yeah.
And then you take the wool and you put it into a centrifuge, and it spins and it separates and it takes the grease with it, and then you've got the grease along with some like salts from
Right.
the sweaty little sheep. And they just kind of like purify and separate out,
Yeah.
and then you've got just like the lanolin. So I think it's like
Yeah.
the little like oils in the core of the hair.
Yeah. I'm going to presume that's a very old, like lanolin has been used by humans for a long time, I'm imagining.
One of the things that if you just look into lanolin now, it is still very popular for nursing care.
I'm imagining it's also great for kilt rash.
Oh, is that just like a Scottish slang for jock itch, or is that?
Kilt rash is jock itch. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
And the wool's what doing it, and then you get the lanolin back in there, so
Right
it's
back
full
in there.
circle.
Okay, sorry. We went on a little lanolin journey.
Yeah, but Oil of Olay is selling like hotcakes in South Africa,
Okay.
and they're like, we need to get this baby global. So as they go into new countries, they change the name Oil of Olay to be different words that they think will be more enticing to the native speakers of whatever that language or accent is. So when they go to the UK and to Ireland, they spell it Oil of Olay, U-L-A-Y.
Really?
Oil of Olay.
Uh-huh.
when they go into Australia,
Uh-huh.
they call it Oil of Ulan, Ulan.
Uh-huh.
And when they go into Germany and Italy, they call it Oil of Ulas.
This is insanely sophisticated for a product strategy, a product naming strategy.
I mean, if you're looking for SEO,
Yeah.
you're shooting yourself in the foot.
Well, that's true.
But back in the
They
day,
probably weren't.
yeah, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
So OLAZ was the product name in Germany and Italy. And so every country that they went to, they wanted to try and maintain that mystique, and they
Yeah.
felt like they needed to do that in the native language or native accent.
Interesting.
So we in the US were sold Olay, and I don't know why they felt like Australia was such a different accent than South African English that they
Right.
needed a different thing, but
Yeah.
American was close to South African, because I don't think that would be my own personal perspective on how
Yeah.
the accents work, but we got the product.
Yeah.
So we got the pure shit.
Nice.
So we got Olay.
And at that time, there was nobody in Germany who could be like, is this the same thing that I encountered in...
I mean, I'd imagine if you took the train to, and then flew over to the UK, then you'd be like, oh, that's interesting. We call this Olas.
This is, by the way, this is like our fourth accent in this episode. This is
Yeah. Well, I
pretty
got,
good.
I got the chance to do a few. I was like, why not, flex the chops?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So this, for better or for worse, leaning into their kind of marketing savvy and the sort of perceived elegance and mysticism of their product, super successful. The ex-Unilever chemist eventually, and the copywriter eventually sell their company to who else but Procter and Gamble.
Right.
And Procter and Gamble pumps a bunch of money into this already global brand and is just like, let's fly this Oil of Olay rocket ship to the moon.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So by the 80s, they're like a massive force in beauty, a huge name. Mm-hmm. And at this point, they have kind of been following along with the trends in beauty. At the beginning, they were kind of not talking about what it's for. They wanted to create this mystique.
Yeah.
But by the 80s, they're competing in a very crowded marketplace, and they're talking to a very different consumer. So they pitch themselves against a woman's absolute worst enemy, which is
Aging.
not the patriarchy.
I mean, in reality it is, but aging, I would imagine.
Aging is the thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a wonderful quote from their brand at that time, and this comes from, I think, some of their not only brand documentation but also actual advertisements. Quote, "I don't intend to grow old gracefully. I intend to fight it every step of the way." Which is just
Yeah.
I don't,
Yeah. It's a paraphrasing Dylan Thomas, but I really appreciate it.
Is that a
Well,
that's a
no,
quote
I
from
mean,
somebody else?
Dylan Thomas was "Do not go gentle into that good night," but that's the same
Oh,
spirit.
right. Yeah. It's the same thing, but unfair beauty standards.
Yeah.
And yeah. So you can,
But also, there's something really twisted about that, Topher, because it's sort of
think
like
it's awful.
it comes across as empowerment. Yeah, you're
Right.
taking a stand, lady, and then it's just sort of but because the societal pressures are so intense that
Right.
you're not allowed just to proceed through your life in a natural way.
exactly. And Olay has evolved from that ethos.
Sure.
But you can see that in the beauty industry in general, that it's not cool or okay or healthy, obviously,
Yeah.
to take that point of view. And we've seen sort of the ravages of what that can do to a person's soul, and then what that makes them do to their skin. But Olay now has since 2001 a new tagline, which is "Love the skin you're in,"
Right.
and that is very different from "I'm gonna
Yeah.
fight death
Tooth and nail.
tooth and
yeah.
nail." Yeah. Different vibe. But, I think, future generations will probably look back on like our generation's beauty
Yeah.
advertisements and level some of the same critiques that say like it's like saying you're okay but you're not quite okay
Right.
because you need to look better, and like that's kind of that's the industry.
Yeah. I mean, we are trying to sell a product ultimately. So
Yes,
you need to you
and
need to stimulate a need.
yeah, and also like I don't know, like it's like that thing that's like if they're already feeling it, am I actually helping them?
Right.
And so like, like you said, you called it a need, and I don't think that's an unfair characterization of the world of beauty, where people actually do really enjoy being able to feel like they're giving themselves
totally.
a little, I want to look my best.
Yeah.
And I get that.
I think it's like interesting because in advertising used to pull some very simple levers. They were levers around like inadequacy. They were levers around like comparing yourself to others. There was like social status, and like one thing we've learned, I think, in the last few years, in terms of like advertising writing, the last maybe couple decades, is like those levers are ultimately destructive, and they don't actually create a confident buyer, a person who wants to have a long-term healthy relationship with your brand. They just kind of create this sort of like unquenchable need, and so it's like love the skin you're in is certainly a different lever. It's a different way of kind of like triggering that sense of need. And like you said, like people do want to feel a certain way, and beauty does provide that. But it's not like, well, you're inadequate if you don't you don't put this on your face.
Yes. And I think it's a great point that like there are better ways to get somebody to feel excited about buying something that you want to sell them.
Yeah, 100%.
And that I feel really strongly that like if Olay is going to be in market, do I want them to be selling love the skin you're in or like fight aging with tooth and nail?
Yeah.
Definitely the former. As they're evolving and kind of like going from that more 80s like be beautiful at all costs thing to something that's a little bit more I see you and it's okay to be you and that type of vibe.
Yeah.
They're also uniting the many disparate fiefdoms of Olay.
Uh-huh.
So one of the things that that is inherent into the question is you told me to like research Oil of Olay.
Yeah.
But the brand is Olay.
The brand is Olay?
The brand is Olay.
Did it start off as Oil of Olay and then it became Olay?
In 1999, they started uniting all of the different Ulaz, Ulan, Odeur, like whatever, like they started pulling all of these things into just one global Olay.
Right.
And so we're going to transition into our next segment.
Ooh, a segment.
Because
we love a segment.
Yes, because what was funny to me about being asked to look into Oil of Olay is like, I knew the brand has been operating in a different name for almost 30 years.
Yeah.
But like, there is a little bit of like those who know the brand most of their lives as Oil of Olay, and those who know their brand most as Olay.
So you're saying I'm old, okay?
I'm not saying anything about anything.
That is loud and clear.
But if you go on TikTok and you search...
What is TikTok?
Well said. There you go. And if you search Oil of Olay, not Olay, but just Oil of Olay.
Okay.
Every single video is basically like a Gen Zer being like, "Why the fuck is Oil of Olay? Why does my mom call it Oil of Olay? It says Olay on the package." It's so annoying. There's like, a girl just like on a walk with her mom in like a beautiful neighborhood in California. And she's like, "Mom, tell me what you call Olay." And like, it's just like, it's just dunking on olds.
How far are we from a movement to bring back the name Oil of Olay becoming the latest reactionary right-wing trend? Like, we're on the cusp, right? We're right there.
They erased Oil of Olay. Yeah, like, yeah. Drill, baby, drill type of vibe.
Exactly, right? Like, give me that oil.
There's actually a thriving resale market for original Oil of Olay on places like Etsy and eBay. And then there is like the other thing you find on TikTok, if it's not Duncan on Olds,
Yeah.
about the term Oil of Olay. If you search Oil of Olay, it's a lot of like vintage retro cutie girls
Yeah.
that are like, part of my vintage lifestyle is using like retro Oil of Olay. And they look cute as hell.
Yeah.
So that exists. That exists. But the reason that this lands us into our new segment
Okay.
is because as soon as I started kind of like spending more time on beauty talk,
Yeah.
on beauty Instagram, I was like, oh, ho, 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 ho. Robert, you have a mission.
Oh,
We're
no.
going to pause and we're going to give you a little bit of a break because your wife has hidden away a package for you.
You're kidding
And
me.
you need to go and get that package now and
Okay.
then come back. So we'll
Okay.
take a little.
I cannot believe this. There's been a conspiracy here.
Oh yeah, we've been cahooting.
Oh my lord. Okay, hold on. Let me be
Yeah,
right
yeah.
back. Oh, okay.
Okay, so
This is niacinamide. Is that how you say it?
fabulous. Well said.
Nice.
Okay, so what do you know, if you know anything right now, about what's important about marketing beauty on social media?
Unboxing.
Absolutely. The most important
Right.
thing you can do on social is to have usually influencer generated, usually like sort of like more credibility, more casualness. You
Yeah.
got to have sort of like that is all that beauty is on social media. And so what we're going to be doing is you are going to be doing
I love
an
this, the
unboxing
demo.
video for us.
Yeah.
And then we're going to talk about the elements of successful beauty, influencer, tutorial, reviews, unboxing videos.
Okay, I love this.
So we completely understand that, you're
I'm
not,
not a beauty
person
influencer.
you're not a beauty influencer.
Correct.
This is your first time, but
Yeah.
you look
I have
gorgeous.
opened packages before too, so
Yes.
I have like at least one leg up.
Yes. So just imagine,
Okay.
based on your understanding of this space,
Yes.
and your natural, like wherewithal and knowledge
Mm-hmm.
of advertising, give us right now. Imagine we're just going to say,
Yeah,
go, and you're going to give me
Say-
an unboxing video
Yeah.
and a little bit of a beauty review.
Yeah, guys, a lot of you have been asking about my skincare routine, and I feel that I just want to share with you kind of what my morning looks like.
Go off,
I'm
queen.
starting with my everyday, like, must-have beauty secret, Olay niacinamide. What I love about this package is you can actually feel the embossed label on the front. It's really
Romance
kind
that
of nice.
shit.
I just accidentally grazed against it, but then it makes me feel like, oh, there's something really tactile here. So it sets you
better
up for
sell.
that experience inside. So it's got, let's see, really lovely, gorgeous, shiny, reflective top. I can almost use that as a mirror if I really wanted to.
Perks, inside info.
Yeah, we got our kind of nice safety cap here, keeps it from spilling all over the place. I never know if I keep these or or get rid of them. It's
what's a girl supposed to do?
It's kind of up to you. You can keep it if you wanna. That's the same thing with yogurt too. Do you peel the top off the yogurt or not? I don't really know. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
So relatable.
All right. Well, let's just take a little bit off the lid here and just see kind of what the consistency is.
Dive
Putting it on
in.
on the hand. That's really, really nice. It almost like disappeared immediately, which is kind of what you want if you're going to be putting this on your face. It just sort of like, it's there, it imparts moisture, and then all of a sudden it's gone. It's kind of like the sort of best companion you want during your day, to be honest with you. So I'm really loving it. I'm loving the kind of, it feels like it's a really nice package. It's going to look great in my medicine cabinet. So yeah, great stuff. You all should get some.
This is phenomenal. This is really, I think, like, in terms of the trappings, we're going to have to, like, huge
Thank
round
you.
of applause from the world. You nailed so many of the core components of
I love
the
it.
genre. So before we dive in, I think I would love to hear from you, kind of like, what do you think about when you think about beauty, Instagram beauty things? Like, what led you to do these things that you did in this conversation?
I mean, there's like the whole guys. You've been asking about my skincare routine. It's just such a like a careworn thing that it's just it's a thing
Yes.
I heard about. It's about
Before we
packaging
go
is
on to
super
that,
important.
before we move on from that too, like that is like I describe that as like manufactured urgency. So like
Yeah.
everyone is asking me.
Yeah.
Obviously, no one asked.
No.
Then there's like as I was going, I was just like looking it up. I was just like bleh, like gorging on beauty talk, and there was like people would be like, stop this video and order this product because it sells out every time.
Right, yeah.
So like, come back to me, but believe me, you're gonna want to order this immediately. Then there's like, you're never gonna believe type stuff.
Yeah.
And then like, it is elevated to like somebody being like, the people at Olay should literally be arrested because there's no way that this should actually work this hard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So yes, this like sort of like manufacturing, you have to watch this now.
Yeah.
Which I get it, attention economy.
But it's so funny because like, the reason that that influencers became like a really reliable channel is because it was seen that advertising was being hyperbolic and like now you've got this like complete reversal.
Yeah, haul off the Olay executives in chains.
Yeah,
This beauty works too well.
Yeah.
So sorry, I interrupted you. You were
No.
moving on to another.
Yeah, I was
another
going to
point.
say that packaging, hugely important in beauty. Hugely important.
Yes.
And not just sort of like form factor, but also like texture, like color choice. Even like, actually this is really interesting. Like the type on this is so, like this looks nothing like I remember Olay. Like it's block type, really clean, really simple. It's like leaning
Yes.
into some of like the, some of the brands like The Ordinary and others that just kind of like played into this very clean space,
Yeah, and they kind of riff on it. So I have my own.
Oh, hi.
I have a different, but I have retinol max.
Yeah.
And same thing. They're really leaning into like it's super easy to see.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but there was a trend. It's not as big now, but there was a trend in beauty influencers for a while where you would take a shelfie. So it was your beauty medicine shelf.
Yeah.
Of like, here's
Oh,
all
yeah,
the
yeah, totally.
products.
Yeah, yeah,
Here's
yeah.
my like,
Yeah.
artillery that I'm deploying. And so
That's a
like.
very beauty metaphor.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It goes with Max.
Yeah.
But that would be kind of like a way that it's a natural thing for the space.
Yeah.
Because to your point, how it looks is hugely important.
Yeah.
Now, oh, sorry, go on.
And then like how do you like describe the texture, the feel of it?
I was very proud of you when you put that on your hand.
It's got to be on the hand. It's gonna be on the hand.
Classic.
Yeah. I mean, I've been to Kiehl's. I'm there.
Yes.
It actually is quite nice, to be honest with you. It really did disappear like immediately.
Now, one of the things that is super important. Well, okay, I'll actually say two of the things. First, your look and your setting are way off, and I ambushed you. So there's no, like that's not like a dig on you at all.
What are books doing here? I don't need books here.
Yeah. Well, it's got to be shot.
Yeah.
Bedroom or bathroom.
Right.
And if it's bedroom, it's got to feel armoire-y, like boudoir type thing. There's got to be, like, one of the things that was wild is I queried, like, I was curious if TikTok would make this easy for me, and I wouldn't have to, like, actually do the, like, synthesis of, like, what are the key components of a beauty bowl. And so I typed in, like, what are the basics of a beauty tutorial or like something like that. And the only thing I got back was just a shit ton of beauty influencers breaking down their lighting strategy. And it is wild. These girls are techies. Like they are techies.
Yeah.
They're like this angle, this angle, this angle, this one's a glow light, this is a blah, blah, blah. They're like, you can probably get away with, like, a lot of them would be like, listen, you don't need all of this setup. I just feel like it's kind of like more about my aesthetic.
Yeah.
But, so they were constantly like, you don't need all this. It's super simple, but mine obviously looks better. And then they would quote like the lumens, like they would break it down really, really
Like
deep.
2,700, not 3,000.
Yes, and then like the rigging and the angles and all that stuff. So lighting is hugely important.
Did you just like, I'm really interested, is there somewhere the first beauty tutorial video? Like, do we know where that is? Like,
It's a great, I
That should be in the
honestly didn't
Smithsonian.
go.
It really should.
Yeah. Absolutely. I honestly didn't dive into this. Like I'm sure it's just like anything else in social where kind of like, it was actually people who were like, I actually do love this product.
Right, totally.
I'm just doing this because I'm a beauty geek.
Yeah.
And that exists to this day. Another thing that is wrong is that you are dressed too well.
That's true. Thank you.
So, social beauty content is not terribly believable when the person's like already ready to, because you've got the
whole
like
thing
get
is-
ready with me
Yeah,
vibes. But there's also just kind of like in general, like when people post reviews about skincare, whatever, like they want to be in a skincare setting. So they go to pains to have like the cutest but still skincare-y setting. So sometimes what that means is like really, really expensive pajamas. Sometimes that means like just a hoodie, but it's like the right brand name hoodie.
Right.
So there's kind of like an affected boudoir moment in the clothing that you didn't have the time or preparation to be able to nail.
No. I was going to wear
think-
a little spa headband, though. I'm glad.
Yes, get that hair out of your
The
face.
hair out of my face. Although
Yeah.
with this forehead, it's really not an issue. Like, it's
Whoa.
not a problem.
We have already explored what headbands look like on this podcast.
We have,
and it was a good look. It was a good
Those
look.
were early days. I was just thinking about that the other day. That was like our second podcast.
Was that Nordic Track?
It was Nordic Track, so it was our fourth podcast.
Yeah, that was a really good one.
Yeah.
So the look is one component where you're a little off.
Yeah.
The second component is, especially now, like I think back in the day, maybe you would have been able to get away with like, oh, and it goes in so well, like really loving it.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it is all about actives. It is all about ingredients. So the thing that we really needed to hear from you was to be like, okay, this is part of, you were like, people have been asking about my beauty routine, blah, 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 blah. I'm loving how you're bouncing off of the packaging. You could reference color a little bit, like this rich color, like makes me feel blah, blah, blah. Like, ooh, it's the color of amethyst. Like that's, whatever. Loved the top relatable moment, etc. As we're diving in, you're feeling the product, but then maybe talk about some
I
scent.
didn't do scent. You're right.
Scent cues are great. And then now that you're in and you've like got me and I'm feeling this is an approachable moment, you need to land the pitch with the ingredients.
Yeah.
So you need to be like, retinol, you all know, is like the cornerstone of blah, blah, blah. So if we're in the niacinamide world, that's when you need to be able to talk about like why that's a crucial, important thing, why they have like the right. So if you watch videos now, they're like, if it's under this kind of percentage, I'm not messing with it. Like it, like it has gotten crazy technical. And that's one of the ways that I think this space has really evolved is that like people are, the ingredients are going in one and two directions.
Right.
One, the people get super, super, super like academic with it. And the beauty space is filled with people who just like have really gone deep on exactly what is going to work for them.
Yeah.
They switch their routines constantly. They're constantly like changing it for seasons, changing it for different looks, blah, blah, blah. And then there are the other kind of people who bounce off the ingredient, like it's retinol, so you know it's good. That's like the thing that's going to make it look great. And then they go to price.
Right.
And those people are going to say like, shop my coupons. Like there's a link in the bio. Like what, like they're go click to the shop. And so those are people who are who are kind of like working on those like referral programs.
Are you finding that like in these moments, like people are actually engaging with brand as well? Like the thing that I was, like when I was pointing to the logo and like, is brand coming through any of these? Or is it just sort of like, this is a product and this product has these ingredients, and therefore I'm repping it. Is there a hint of like brand coming through?
Well, it's a great question, because one of the things that I found myself doing is after I had like lived in Olay's beauty social world,
Yeah.
I was like, oh wait, what, do they have commercials? Like I was kind of like, oh, what about TVCs? So, these, I think there's a difference between your like upstart, like homegrown brands versus your like global companies.
Mm-hmm.
Global companies were being depositioned aggressively via social media for a while, but they figured it out,
Right,
and they just
totally.
like started putting dollars behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's a lot of really, really like the one case study that gets referenced a ton is like a couple years ago, Revlon launched a new mascara on social. It became this worldwide sensation.
Yeah.
So they've figured out that the space needs to be somewhere that they invest. And based on my research, for global beauty brands, TV commercials are still the largest chunk of advertising budgets, but they are significantly diminished in favor of doing influencer campaigns and things like that. So they're still like a majority, but instead of being at 100%, they're maybe more like 55%, 65% of the budget. And the other budget does need to go to things like social. It's interesting in the case of Olay because, early on, I hate to do this, but like going back to a founding from a white South African guy, and then tracking all the way through the beauty industry of the 80s, like you can imagine that all of these women were just white women that they're featuring. Olay now leans heavily in their sort of like banner marquee moments into women of color. So that includes Olympians from the Summer Olympics just now. They have that gorgeous actress from Abbott Elementary, I forget her name right now, Quinetta, I think. They
Quinta.
are like making that be a huge focus.
Quinta Brunson, yeah.
Yeah. But that focus is balanced, interestingly, by like what they put in their Instagram stories and like their little moments in terms of like the influences that they activate. There's still like a, pretty white, clean white woman aesthetic, like the clean girl thing, that, is like they've found that one of the benefits of being able to do social is that you really can spread the types of people that you speak to. So they have dudes in there that are doing like social ads for them as well. So they can lead with marquee moments that have a lot more feature of women of color, which is incredible. Like if you go to their like About Olay, they have like a lot of work that they do with HBCUs, getting more women in STEM. And then like if you go on their social, they can hyper segment a lot more and be able to kind of like, they can afford also to like spread themselves around.
Yeah. You're probably leading me here already. So if I'm preempting what you were going to say, just let me know. But as you're talking about like, beauty brands and social, I'm thinking back to how you described how Oil of Olay decided to launch itself, which is essentially the social of its day. Like it was taking the same approach, which was like creating this personality who would then add credibility to the product, as opposed to kind of like a brand first approach, which would be like, how do I start to like build this narrative through media that then like I experienced through the product. They were like using essentially the same kind of tactic that you're seeing beauty brands use today, but just through the channel that was available then, which was, Reader's Digest or, very targeted publications.
I hadn't put a bow on that bitch. So I'm really glad that you did. Because, I totally agree. It's like, they started in a place that was, it's a secret. Let me share it. It's much more relatable. It's like, it's, and they moved into mass media when they got global. But as,
And
sort
that
of
secret
communication
became,
gets democratized.
Yeah. That secret became kind of the brand too. Like the mystery became the brand. Like the exoticism and the mystery became core to what the brand stood for. And I think that's kind of why I was so intrigued by it, because like I said when we talked about it the first time, it's just redolent of some place other. It's like you think it comes from some other place, and it's so well crafted as a brand identity that I was just sort of like, I really want to know what this is all about. But and they did it through this very circuitous route, and not the way you'd think about a brand doing it normally. I'm always curious about a movement or a trend whose origin is sort of a drive to the authentic, because when you kind of combine the authentic with the imperatives of commerce, which is I've got to sell a product, like at some point the authenticity kind of butts up against that, which is that like at the even though stylistically we're dealing with, like you were saying, kind of like people not dressed up, and like there's a kind of like reality to who you are, ultimately it's about a transaction. Like, do you feel that there's a next step? Like, do you think that at some point we're going to see a return to kind of like maximalist, over like hyper constructed, these narratives around beauty that are less about like a person in their bathrobe and more about like this grand story we're kind of telling again?
I'd say definitely.
Yeah.
And you can even see that, this is a small example, but you can even see that in the fact that like Olay is doing influencer driven types of posts.
Yeah.
But then they also have posts with drag queens.
Right.
And there's nothing less unaffected, natural, relatable than a man dressing up as a woman and looking more gorgeous than most women do. But like, it is a matter of hours to make that happen.
Yeah, 100%.
So, I think we're kind of living in a space where both things have their own space.
Yeah.
Like, you can do a RuPaul's Drag Race sponsorship, which Olay has done. And you can also do the like, let's get like a slimy girl in her bathrobe to like talk about how she loves niacinamide.
Oh man, we don't allow comments on the YouTube, right? Yeah, we're okay. Good. That's great.
Okay, so we've gone on this whole journey. I really appreciate you completing the assignments. You have one assignment more.
No, I'm boycotting.
Well, it's for next week.
Okay,
it's
cool.
what for next month rather. What brand you're going to be doing?
Okay, I'm here for that. That's what.
Because you've worked hard enough today.
Girl, I did.
You did.
I put
You
in the
earned
work.
it. Oh,
This
there's
cardigan-
a really great one from the 80s of a woman, an Oil of Olay ad of a woman who's like, I'm getting the best out of my life, and she goes and like gets a job, and she like comes out of the office where she gets hired, and she's like, yeah.
Amazing.
It's really good. It's very glassy.
I always like link Oil of Olay with Band de Soleil, which is another great 80s brand with a great musical hook.
Why hasn't anybody ever like rapped about those two?
I don't know.
I feel like they deserve their own space.
Yeah, rhythmically they work. They rhyme.
Yeah. I was even I looked up rap lyrics, and I was hoping for something, but like there was no Oil of Olay. There was LL Cool J referenced Kamei in Around the Way Girl. And I was like, shouldn't Oil of Olay kind of like mix in there?
Yeah.
But it wasn't, it would rhyme Around the Way.
Yeah,
But
and
didn't
LL Cool
work in
J,
there.
like what the hell?
Yeah. But he's his own guy. He wasn't feeling the brand.
Never say his name that way. LL Cool J.
Yeah.
LL Cool J. No, LL Cool Steve. Totally different guy.
Different guy.
Okay, so awesome. All right, I'm ready for my assignment.
Your assignment for us, the reason I thought about this brand is because I found myself thinking about this category in general, and thinking about this category is almost devoid of brands. And this brand stands out as a brand in a category where almost no brands exist.
Okay.
The brand is Chiquita.
Oh, like the banana?
Mm-hmm.
Like the... I mean, I guess I was like, do they do more than bananas?
You can tell me. I only know them for bananas.
Oh my God, this is so great because there's a song, and I love a brand associated with a song, and an amazing logo, and this is awesome. Okay, that's great. Chiquita. We're definitely going to come up against some very ugly colonial backstories. Like it's not going to be pretty.
Yeah.
So
there's some stuff in there.
We've taken a few detours into Happy Land the last couple episodes. I think we're going back to our roots.
It's time to get into modern plantation work.
Just extermination. It's going to be
monocropping.
You're going to probably want to have a banana because the stress, you're going to need that potassium, I think.
I will prepare accordingly.
Yeah. All right, that's going to be awesome. So next time, we will be diving into the sordid world of banana plantations.
Or maybe it's not so bad.
I love the optimism. You've been listening to Strange Coordinates, the show where we use brands as roadmaps to arrive at fascinating places. Your hosts are Topher Burns and me, Robert Baylog. If you want to learn more about our agency, which I really suggest you do, go to our website at weareterritorial.com. You can join our mailing list there, which is fun. You can hear from us on a semi-regular basis. You can also follow us on LinkedIn, which is where we do professional kind of stuff. So we hope to see you there and see you next time.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.